People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit
like
going
it's
on
a lot.
around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Remember when Sheryl Swoopes took a mic and tried to convince the world that nobody wanted to sign with the Indiana Fever? That free agents would avoid the franchise like it was radioactive, thanks to locker room issues and a so-called toxic culture? Yeah, well, that take has officially been thrown onto the pile of coldest takes in WNBA history.
What kind of things do you feel?
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay,
I ain't even
but
on
just,
the team.
I'm
talking about more social media.
Okay. It's a turn.
Right?
It's a turn, right? It's really a turn of the tides.
Well,
right.
Gil, here's my point. The beginning of the year, right? Everybody saw it.
Because now, Indiana just won free agency, and the person putting that message on blast is not some random Twitter fan. It's Sue Bird. But before we get into Sue's basketball gospel, let's give Swoopes' original take the roasting it deserves. This wasn't just some offhand remark. This was a Hall of Famer, someone with a legacy, getting on her platform and basically telling the basketball world that Indiana was where careers went to die. She said the locker room was in shambles, that real talent would never choose the Fever, and that the franchise wasn't ready to support a generational star.
So that takes us to Indiana, which I think everyone agrees right now has gone from, a team that made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. They were building all these young pieces, of course, Caitlin Clark, to now an immediate contender with all the moves that they've made.
But what's actually happening as free agency unfolded? Players are lining up to join the Caitlin Clark show. And that's exactly what Sue Bird, the walking encyclopedia for basketball history, sees. And when Sue talks, people listen.
I think Natasha Howard certainly stands out. I loved playing with Tosh.
But you cannot say enough
I
about
cannot say
playing
enough
with
about
Tosh,
Tosh. I really enjoyed playing with her. I think she really is she's just this glue player that doesn't get enough shine for what she does, because a lot of what she does doesn't show up in the box score, but she just is like always in the right place at the right time. And a player like that, I think, complements what Indiana is building.
See, Sue doesn't hand out compliments like candy on Halloween. She's not here for clout. She's a 4-time WNBA champion, 5-time Olympic gold medalist, and the point guard who orchestrated one of the most dominant runs seen in WNBA history, the Seattle Storm.
So Sue Bird is one of the greatest point guards of all time in the WNBA. And she's someone who obviously is a part owner in the Seattle Storm. So hyping up another team is a bit of a conflict of interest, if we're being honest.
So what did she say? First, she gave her classic veteran perspective, telling everyone to pump the brakes on the Indiana Fever instant title parade. That's classic Sue, steady, calculated, reminding people that rings aren't won on Twitter or in group chats hyping Clark's logo threes.
They obviously, through trade, added Sophie Cunningham, a player that, I would say a 3-and-D type player who has, been to the finals, so has that playoff experience. She's also just tough. She's mentally tough. She's physically tough. She brings an edge to them. And then last but not least, they added Dewana Bonner, which really I think is the one that for most people took it to another level. So now you're like, oh, they're a contender.
But here's what the casuals missed. Sue Bird wasn't downplaying the Fever. She was putting the league on notice. Because when you sift through her words, the real message is clear. Indiana is building something special, and it's happening fast. This is not just the Caitlin Clark show, though she's the box office star, hitting logo threes and dishing out assists like it's a pregame warm-up and making defenders look like traffic cones. No, Sue sees the foundation.
The biggest part of DB joining this team is that she's already played for Steph. So I think that's going to help bridge the gap, because as we go along, we're going to talk about Vegas and Seattle, Atlanta. It's really going to be which
Stephanie
team.
White being the head coach of,
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Was the head coach of Connecticut, now the head coach of Indiana.
Yeah. So it's really going to be the team that finds their chemistry. This season is short. I mean, they're adding games, but it's still pretty short season.
Still short.
And it's
Still
going to
just
be the
summer.
team that finds chemistry. So having Stephanie White there, having already coached DB, really does help.
Aaliyah Boston, the dominant center ready to dominate the paint for the next decade. Kelsey Mitchell, an elite scorer that went through the hard times and is now shining in the good times. Lexi Hull, the glue and hustle player every great team needs. And now, free agents want in. That's the part Swoopes never saw coming. Caitlin Clark changed everything.
Kelsey Mitchell's balling, Caitlin continuing to impress, and she's going to break records nonstop for the next couple years.
This isn't the Indiana Fever team that spent years as a league afterthought. This is the hottest ticket in town. Ticket sales, record-breaking, jerseys, flying off shelves faster than Reese Brick's free throws, broadcast deals. Networks are fighting for Fever slots like it's the NBA Finals. Free agents see it. Veterans who want rings are suddenly interested in Indiana because playing with Clark means primetime TV, deep playoff runs, and legacy building. Sue Bird knows that. She's been that gravitational player before, drawing talent to Seattle in her prime. She recognizes the Fever are starting to build that same kind of pull. This is how dynasties start. A superstar, a young core, and veterans who see the vision. So while Sue Bird is out here diagnosing Indiana's rise to power, Sheryl Swoopes is watching her credibility melt away. This is no longer the Indiana Fever of old. This is the team of the future, and the rest of the league better wake up fast.
There's something about the way she plays the game, her passing, her shooting, that people really identify with. I really feel like we're poised and we're set up for a great, successful next era of Fever basketball.
When Sue Bird tells you a team is about to be a problem, you listen. Because Sue isn't some retired legend trying to stay relevant with hot takes. When she speaks, it's a warning. And her message about the Indiana Fever is loud and clear. This team isn't coming. They've arrived.
3 WNBA MVPs in your career. Would you consider each of those 3 seasons as dominant seasons for yourself?
No.
I can't, bro. Sheryl Swoopes is willing to lie about her own career before she even admits that Caitlin is dominant.
And here's the part that Sheryl Swoopes and her outdated locker room issues narrative completely missed. The Fever didn't just stumble into this success because Caitlin Clark showed up, although she was the spark that ignited the flame. They built this, piece by piece, move by move. The Fever have been laying bricks for years, suffering through empty arenas and double-digit losing streaks while Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and the rest of the core kept grinding. Clark wasn't the plan. She was the vital and most important piece. And that's what Sue Bird recognizes, the blueprint. The Fever front office didn't just sign players for headlines. They built a team with basketball purpose. They built a system where Clark can thrive without having to score 30 every night just to keep the team afloat. This isn't some desperate team hoping one player saves the day. This is a machine being assembled to win, built around that one generational superstar.
To you about the experience, the champions that have been added to this point.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what everybody talked about when we were in the playoffs last year of, we really didn't have much experience at all playing in playoff games. I don't know what the exact number was, but we really lacked in that area. So just adding pieces of, players that have been in this league, they know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to get to the finals. They know what it takes to win championships. I think it's exactly what we needed in our locker room. So it's just exciting, but also they're not only really good basketball players, they're really great leaders and really great people. And I know the front office obviously really prioritized that and looking for the pieces that we wanted to add. So really thankful for that as well.
Look at the free agency moves, because that's where the truth slaps you in the face. Indiana is no longer a rehab stop for forgotten veterans or stat-padding guards. Suddenly, the Fever are a destination. Players aren't avoiding Indiana. They're circling it on their calendars like it's the NBA All-Star Weekend.
It means Sydney Colson is joining the Indiana Fever. What does that mean? Indiana is just being so greedy right now. They took DB, they took Natasha. Now they got Sydney Colson. Why would they take Sydney from us?
And why? National TV games, packed arenas, Caitlin Clark gravity, and most importantly, a young core built to win. Players know that running alongside Clark gets you seen. Her presence turns every Fever game into must-see TV, and every teammate gets a boost from that spotlight. Sponsorship deals? Bigger. Brand opportunities? Endless. That's what Angel Reese and Swoopes fail to grasp. Clark doesn't just elevate herself, she elevates everyone around her. Sue Bird knows this better than anyone. She's seen the blueprint work before. She built one herself in Seattle, first with Lauren Jackson and then later on with Brianna Stewart and Jewel Lloyd. And now, she sees the exact same formula unfolding in Indiana, but faster.
I think Caitlin Clark is at that ascension point where she's going to be top of the MVP race. We're going to talk about her in terms of stat leaders later, but the way that the Indiana Fever just made a statement around Caitlin Clark and said like, hey, we're pushing in the chips. We're ready to win now. And DeWanna Bonner is obviously, the face of the new pieces that have come in. So obviously that's going to be the biggest needle mover in what Drew said. The market has obviously reflected that.
But here's where it gets even better. Sue Bird isn't just looking at the players on the court. She's looking at the mastermind behind the operation, Stephanie White. Stephanie White isn't a coach who's just happy to be here. She's been in championship locker rooms. She understands pressure and she understands how to mold talent into winners. She's not guessing, she's orchestrating.
The future is so bright, and our ultimate goal is to hang another banner in the field house. And our ultimate goal is to come back in here after we win that championship and celebrate again like we did in 2012.
And White isn't coming in blind. She's coached DeWanna Bonner before, one of the most lethal two-way players in WNBA history. That connection, already built. That chemistry, already tested. That trust, already there. And Bonner isn't just some veteran warming the bench for morale purposes. She's a walking mismatch, a 6'4" problem who can shoot, defend, and bully smaller players in the paint. A nightmare for defenders, still torching teams well into her career. She can guard multiple positions, stretch the floor, and punish smaller defenders on the block.
I think the biggest needle-moving free agent signing, which was also one of the more surprising moves for me, DeWanna Bonner to the Fever. That was one of the first dominoes that fell, in this offseason.
Pair that with Caitlin Clark pulling defenders out to the logo and Aaliyah Boston eating rebounds like they're appetizers. Defenses are going to break down before halftime. And let's add another layer here. Bonner's defensive versatility is exactly what championship teams need. She can switch onto guards, bang with forwards, and anchor rotations alongside Boston. Her presence gives Indiana the ability to close games with a lineup that can defend and stretch the floor. Optimal in playoff basketball.
If you look at the sort of the trend or theme of the Fever offseason, in my opinion, has been adding experience. And DeWanna Bonner has that. She's got a ton of playoff experience. She's obviously somebody who can score. She adds a lot to the defensive end because she's very mobile and she has a lot of length. So I think that's going to help them a lot.
And let's not forget the mindset Clark is bringing into all this. She's not some wide-eyed youngster hoping to fit in. Clark is built different. She's carried entire college programs on her back in front of sold-out arenas. She's stared down hostile college crowds and dropped 40 like it's cardio. She's been under pressure since high school and has only gotten better under it. That's the kind of player who transforms a franchise, not just with points, but with belief. The Fever aren't just hoping to make the playoffs, they're hunting banners. While Sheryl Swoopes clings to her outdated locker room fairy tales, Sue Bird is watching Indiana build a dynasty in real time.
So excited. The Fever, if you haven't been paying attention, they are really active in ensuring that Caitlin Clark and company have a true contending lineup next season. They have Caitlin Clark, they have Aaliyah Boston, they made sure that they re-signed Kelsey Mitchell. That was a big one. They acquired both Natasha Howard and DeWanna Bonner. They traded for Sophie Cunningham. They still have Lexi Hull. And now they have made a move that is literally my favorite of WNBA free agency. They have signed Sydney Colson, face of the WNBA. If you know, you know.
This isn't just about Caitlin Clark pulling up from the logo and draining threes like it's light work. It's about how she's changing everything around her, elevating teammates, breaking defenses, and turning the Indiana Fever into a juggernaut. Take Aaliyah Boston, already a force in the paint, now paired with a guard who pulls defenders out to the parking lot. Suddenly, the lane opens up like the Red Sea, giving Boston all the room she needs to bully defenders and feast inside.
Are you in a position where you can add some pieces?
Yes, we are. We're definitely in a position. And I would think that if you are a smart basketball player and you watch the way she plays, you would want to play with her.
Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull, they're thriving too. Clark's gravity is their golden ticket. Cutting lanes are wide open, And defenders are so terrified of Clark's shot, they forget about the other weapons. 1 second you're doubling Clark, the next, Mitchell is hitting a layup uncontested, or Hull is burying a corner three. And then DeWanna Bonner steps in, one of the most versatile veterans in WNBA history. 6'4", all-time bucket getter, defensive anchor, matchup nightmare. She's not here for a farewell tour. She's here to win another ring.
Well, the market would agree, right? Because after she was signed, they went from a plus 900 to like a plus 450, plus 500. And we saw, obviously that's not entirely Bonner, but it was Bonner and Howard kind of at the same time, or like very close to the same time. So the other thing is, I just think she's such a good fit for this team as like that Iguodala role, right? That the Warriors had back in their earlier runs. And she's almost like an overqualified Iguodala though, right? Like she can guard 1 through 5. She is going to be able to kind of leg off on those really, really tough defensive assignments on any given night because they have the depth they have, right?
Natasha Howard, grit, defense, championship mentality.
It's going to be Caitlin Clark flash show. So it's going to be phenomenal playing with a point guard, like you said, that have a good vision on the court, because that's like as soon as she gets the ball in her hand, she's throwing it up because she already see the person down the court before she even get the ball in her hand. So that's one thing I love about her vision on the court. I really can't wait to catch all those passes and give her all the assists that she needs.
Sophie Cunningham, a sharpshooter with an edge, the kind of player you love on your team and hate to play against.
Sophie Cunningham is there to be basically the enforcer. She played a lot of the 5 at Phoenix. She literally played 1 through 5. She guarded 1 through 5 at Phoenix. There is maybe a not more versatile glue player in the WNBA than Sophie Cunningham. There are better players, there are more versatile players, but no more versatile glue players than 100k a year than Cunningham. She's almost a one of a kind in what she does.
Double team Clark, she'll find the open player, guard her straight up, she'll humiliate you on a highlight reel. But it's not just talent, it's the mindset that's terrifying the rest of the league. This is not the Indiana Fever of old, desperate for wins and hoping for a miracle. This is a team that knows exactly who they are. They've got the target on their back, and they love it. Every game is a showdown. Every night is a statement. And Caitlin Clark lives for that pressure. She's been under the spotlight since Iowa. Sold-out arenas, deafening crowds, people waiting for her to fail. Every time, she's answered. She's not running from the target. She's drawing a bigger one on her chest.
And yeah, there's a narrative out there that Kathy made the call. All right, Kathy Engelbert. Oh, we got to make sure we get Caitlin Clark the championship. And I told you there's narrative floating. Number 1, they're freaking out. Number 2, the next thing you're about to hear is Caitlin Clark needs a super team to win a championship. So they're going to downgrade her status, and they're going to her over that. It's already started. That's where they're going with this, folks.
That's why Sue Bird gets it. Sue was that player once, the face of a franchise, the one carrying expectations. She sees herself in Clark, but also something new. Because Clark isn't just meeting the hype, she's rewriting it. She's not the next Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, or anyone else. She's the first Caitlin Elizabeth Clark. But let's talk about the haters, because they're squirming. Sheryl Swoopes? Still clinging to that embarrassing, nobody wants to play in Indiana take, while free agents keep choosing the Fever like it's the hottest club in town. Aja Wilson? Feeling that pressure. She was the face of the league, but now she's side-eyeing every Clark headline, every jersey sale, every record-breaking viewership number. Her passive-aggressive social media posts say it all. She knows the shift is happening, and Clark didn't ask for the crown. She took it. Angel Reese? Still stuck in a college rivalry that Clark left behind months ago. Reese can talk, but the numbers speak louder. Clark's jersey retirement ceremony drew more viewers than WNBA playoff games. That's not shade, that's reality.
The Indiana Fever are that golden destination, and I can't help but laugh to the fans and the people online and the media commentators, unfortunately, who said that nobody wanted to play in Indiana. That doesn't make any sense.
But here's why the rest of the league should be scared. This Fever team isn't just here to compete. They're here to dominate. Clark didn't come to Indiana to make the playoffs. She came for banners, for MVPs, for a legacy. This team wants to be the WNBA's next dynasty, and they have the pieces to do it. So to all the critics, the doubters, the bitter veterans watching their influence fade, Sue Bird sees you, and she's here to tell you, you're wrong. This isn't hype. This is history being written in real time. The future of the WNBA runs through Indiana. And Caitlin Clark isn't just driving the bus, she's taking laps around the haters. Because Indiana is here now, and they're not leaving. Are you excited? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.